Hello there folks, this is Ferenc on board here, this time with a video on a topic probably most people wouldn't expect. So I thought, and I've actually been thinking for a very long time, to talk a bit about an aspect that, well, I doubt it actually appears in typical psychology and or psychiatry. The topic of a yandere and the idea of a tsundere, and well, most likely let's focus today on the yandere and yangire aspects together. So I've been wondering in the end that yes, let's say these cases actually exist. There are many posts on the internet that say people actually have met such people, such such persons that can have such a wacky personality. One of my specifics is a curiosity and a natural tendency towards researching such personalities. Usually I have a penchant towards wanting to study such personalities, like, I don't know, narcissistic behaviors and all sorts of the such, psychopathy, sociopathy. I do have a passion towards those, but not necessarily meeting such people. I'm okay with studying them from a distance because I know that I have enough empathy to understand some of their specifics without necessarily entering, like getting in touch with such people. Now, I don't have personally a passion towards any of the Dere personalities. I've tried some of the, little tests that there are on the internet to, like for fun, just see which of these Dere personalities would actually, be something familiar, or would be the closest to me. And well, I kind of ended up as a Kudere, which, well, more like a Kudere Dandere hybrid. This is, well, a hybrid usually is what I end up as, because I know I'm twisted enough to not necessarily be something simple. Even in the Myers-Briggs test I ended up as an ENTP INTP, so extrovert also introvert hybrid, which meant that I had around 50% of both. And well, the percentages were very close, and I also have IFNJ specifics, so I'm kind of a pretty twisted personality, I could say. Now, the point of high level attachments and such, there's such aspects in psychiatry. Well, we have, well, some sorts of attachments through narcissism. They usually have these types of attachments towards certain objects, for example, that they wouldn't let go. There's a type called closet narcissists. These people usually have a passion towards something, be it a group usually or other persons that they attach themselves to, and they will militate for those people, and they will do the usual narcissistic stuff but for those other aspects. This is somewhat of a more concealed and a shyer version of typical narcissists, because for some reason, well, you see, these people, the so-called closet narcissists, and I don't know why it was called like this, it's one of the three main types of narcissism that I read about. This type usually doesn't like being the the center of attention, right? They prefer having a distance. Usually they don't like the attention being on them. It's one of the weirder, let's say, or the unexpected types of narcissism, but there is a lot about this that most people simply do not know. Now, I'm not a fan of Yanderes and Yangire, but the topic, why I chose the topic, well, it's actually much more to this. So all I can say is that 1 year ago and 1 day extra, on the 13th of March, I started working on my video game, and well, I was in a way like, I'm gonna start talking about a game that, I'm sure it will spark up a lot of hatred, because it's kind of well known for that, and I'm definitely not interested in sparking up that hatred or maintaining it. I'm just gonna present it a bit, just as the wake-up call that was in my case towards spirituality, let's say. So that game's name is called Yandere Simulator. I started playing that game 1 month, like 13 months ago. There is this 13 in my life that for some reason it kind of stalks me in a way. um, 13 is a number of change in a way. It is a number of in a way cycles ends. For example, 1313, the mirror hour 1313, it is a number of progress through the power of 4. And well, 13 months ago I got in contact with the Yandere Simulator. Now, to most people it will sound very curious, but I was not drawn by the game specifically. So how it happened and how I remember it is, I was lying in bed, I kind of rage quit. I don't know, I had a rough time in a game, and I just quit it. I didn't like it, and I kind of ended up with that wish that I wanted to install a new game. I wanted to do something, um, I just wanted to do something, okay? So I wanted to play a different game, and I didn't know exactly what game. And well, I still have that. Um, okay, so my video game, okay, is finally put into the computer. I work on it both on my computer and on my laptop, and I put it from one place to another. And so let's see. So it should be somewhere around here. I really don't know exactly where. I think in here. Oh yes. So the old installation, I prefer to keep it in a way because um, well, there is a lot to speak about this game, and for some reason I really don't mind speaking about that. Okay, this one. So the reason why I kept the original installation is because, well, I was mostly interested in keeping this little file. Now, as probably some of you know, if you've been looking, like following my channel, I usually dive deep into most of the things, and I usually prefer also noticing and seeing the spiritual side of things, the larger picture of things. Now, the point is, as I was sitting in there, I don't know exactly if I was conscious of the moment when I decided to, start watching, actually playing Yandere Simulator, and it was kind of spiritual push in my case, because I've had these moments when I was suddenly sitting in bed as if I didn't know who I was, what I was. It could be a sign of spiritual switch, a moment of suddenly going to a new level, and this can manifest in a way that you're suddenly sitting there and you don't know what you've been doing, even if you've been doing the same thing, like you're literally with the joystick in your hand, and you're wondering, what the fuck have I been doing till now? It's like the game is open in your face, but you're not conscious of what you've been doing lately. And I was sitting there, and I was like, the only thought in my mind was, I need to play another game, okay? And suddenly there was this voice that said in my mind, I need to play Yandere Simulator. It's strange in a way because I didn't know of the game. Like literally, it was probably the first time that I heard of the game then, okay? I didn't meet anything related to it before, except a few years before, most likely. I'm not sure because I don't remember anything. I think I have seen something, like I have seen some pictures of it on Google, but I've never played it. Like I think when I was year 2 in university, I think I came across some pictures regarding the game, but I don't remember playing it, and I know for sure I haven't played it because I was playing other games back then. And as I was sitting in bed there, this voice came into my mind and said, I have to play Yandere Simulator. And I actually, afterwards, I said it with my own voice, I have to play the game. Now, the point was that, as you may have guessed, the next moment I was actually downloading the game, and I got into the game. And I don't think that at that time I was conscious of the fact that the irony is that I actually downloaded the game the first time I played it on the 14th of February, which kind of is, the so-called Lovers' Day, and the game also has this lovely heart as an icon, okay? And the point is, I downloaded the game and I installed the game. Now, if you look at it at the date specifically, now for some reason the full date exactly. Oh yes, this one. So I downloaded it on the 14th of February. Okay, now this wasn't something that I arranged in such a way, like thinking that probably I'll throw a video, like this wasn't something that I planned. Okay, this was something that actually happened to me. It's one of those awkward moments when spirituality manifests itself, and a part of your life has to go on a certain path, most likely. I'm starting to believe more and more the fact that each and every one of us comes on this world to accomplish something, and well, I kind of understood the fact that I have to start increasing the awareness of people, spiritually speaking. I have to create video games in my own fashion, meaning in advanced fashions, to show people that there's always something much better that can be done. One of my dreams is to greatly improve the AI of video games, because I really feel that in most cases it sucks, especially the bots in shooter games. They kind of suck, and hopefully there is something to do about this. And well, apart from the 14th of February, okay, which is so-called the Lover's Day, the moment of installation is actually a mirror hour. And if we actually look about it and see one of the sites that I use to read mirror hours, this one, we can see that there's actually a lot to be said about this. And that specific day, that specific hour is this one, 1551. And this hour, as it says on many of the sites, is governed by the angel Michael when it comes to the guardian angel's influences. And well, it is called to be the hour of benevolence, of love, freedom, and optimism. It has a vibration of 1 and 5, also, and 6, which results in 66 if you put the numerology behind it. And through 66, it presents an idea of unconditional love, recovery, faith, trust in the divine. This usually represents me in a way, so it also presents gratitude. It's actually, at that time, 2019 was the year of introspection for me. It was one of the most introspective years of my life, and well, I'm still introspective, but back then, was in that year, I discovered so many things that I wasn't that much aware of. And 1551 is also an hour of simplicity and gratitude. It was the year when I actually started feeling more and more grateful towards the things that I was given by the universe. Okay, and humanitarianism is something that kind of represents me. So the idea is that this game, in a way, Yandere Simulator game, will remain for me a very important game, not because of the character being a yandere. Okay, like all I know is that I can be a good video game critic in a way, because I'm a maniac when it comes to bug squishing, because that's something that I'm very ferocious when it comes to my own game. I always seek all the possible exploits whenever I add something, and when I want to add something it takes time, so I have a lot of time to think on how it can actually be exploited. So I know that if I'd want people to test my games, that's the kind of people that I would really want, those who would look through the nooks and crannies. And it's like, I wanted to make a video about Yandere Simulator in a way, but also about my game as well, because you see, it's not intended, but there will be a lot of similarities in between my game and in between Yandere devs idea. So let's open the project and tell the computer where it actually is. Documents, let's see, desktop. Okay. Really now? Okay, so let's see here, project, game project. So the point is that my game and his game will have a lot of similarities, most likely because, well, my game will be based off a university, while his game is in a school. So all I want to say is that there will be a lot, and I say a lot, of logical similarities. Now the point is, of course, my game will have a bit more complexity than his, but the platform I'm working on allows me to create things much faster than, like literally coding them. Game development is not necessarily something that I wish and I would go for necessarily. That's something that, I'd more like be looking for someone to do the coding for me instead of, spending time on that. Like, I know for one I'm better at game design rather than necessarily game development. Both are two skills and they are both time consuming. So my game will have 5 playable characters, and my game is not gonna be created just because I would necessarily wanted to do something better than Yandev. This is actually a gift of mine that I know I have. I can create something better out of everything that I encounter, everything that I see, but it's not something that I create out of competition. I know Yandere Simulator has been the game that, it's been my wake-up call towards game design. Probably game development. I'm currently learning JavaScript. I'm wishing to understand how to create plugins for this game, because I'm wishing to create a Yu-Gi-Oh game plugin. And well, the reason why in so many years till now no one has tried this is most likely because it's way too complex and way too much work for someone alone to do that. But well, humanity kind of didn't know about me, so it's like it's always gonna be you know I'm always gonna be that lunatic who will do the heavy duty. Like, I'm okay with doing at least a core from which other people can actually work and do something that I wouldn't mind adding to my own game. And well, I'm not interested necessarily in adding to that to my own game, but I'm okay if I can actually create a part of that. Now with my game I have broken the big map. I had a map, this one, and it had all these 3 floors into it, and now I broke that into these separate floors, and now I can have more control over them. I also added these extensions to the map, which initially they didn't have. There's a lot of work map wise. The university that I'm working on is regarding it's actually the university from Hamamatsu University. Well, it's Shizuoka University of Art and Culture, to speak exactly. But I don't want to have the specific structure of the building because it definitely doesn't have the structure. And since my game is called A Journey Through Consciousness, it's gonna have a lot of awkward events and less desirable actions in it. So I don't know how it will be viewed if you present that as part of a university that already exists. Some people might freak out, some people might not like it, and well, some of the maps still need completion. Okay, so the point is that my game actually takes part in a parallel universe, and well, there's a lot of more of the in-depth part that you can actually dive into later on. And also I'm now actively working at the roof part for the university. I want to create the roof as a kind of a park where you can actually stroll. Some people would probably be like, hey, but trees on the roof of a building? Well, let's consider these trees like they'd be something like not necessarily fake, but fake trees in a way. Okay, because looking on Google Maps at the university, it actually has something like this, a pathway that you can actually move on, and it has some benches. And I was like, I could never expect something like that. And I said, hey, you know what, I'm definitely gonna imitate that. And I put one of the typical gates. I got some tile sets from Starbird, and I'm actually thankful for them. I bought some from him, and he also gave me a few extras, and that's why I decided to put his sigil from place to place in here to signal that some of his tiles are his, like kind of a little advertisement. And yes, I still have a lot of work. Now, just like in Yandere Simulator, I have a theater club. I actually have some clubs that, again, the names will be very similar because it's kind of the logical clubs that you could actually expect. And the theater club is gonna be a big one. It already has 22 students in my case, and I already have added my first theater event. And well, it's actually something very nice. It's been added. Okay, so okay, yes, so this one here I have to change because I changed the tile set and it also changed that. So the first play actually takes place in here. It's an area that I created out of events. There will be other two theater plays in this area, so depending on the place, depending on the place, yes, the theater club has multiple of these stages at different floors in different places of the university, even in the university garden. And there will be plays that will take place in these areas. For example, in this area there are 3 plays that will take place. I only have created the first one. It took me around a week to create. I already have it posted on Facebook. Oh yes, actually on Facebook, a demo of it. And the 3 stages that I got it through are all posted on my YouTube channel, the same as where all my videos are posted. And well, I can't believe the amount of positivity that I actually received. I wasn't expecting people to react so positively to my creation. Probably also because of, you know, the plot being simple, visual novel, and you know, the Asian music that I have as a background, but only a part of it. I'm also looking to finish the roof map, and well, I have another more secret map. Let's say that map won't necessarily be accessible to players from the beginning. They have to do something, and it's kind of the map where awkward things will start happening. There's a lot of work for it to do. Okay, now in order to have achieved this, now let's dive a bit into the game that, you know, I spent quite some time playing. It's this little beauty. Now, regarding Yandere Dev, I know there is a lot of negativity around, so I'm just okay, so you wouldn't allow me to play this. Oh wait, I think I actually have to go back to yes, in case you're wondering what Yanderin is, it was my old game name. I mean, the game initially was named like this. The game was initially named like this. Okay, I think it's this one and in here. Okay, so my game was initially called Yanderin because I was working on 2 other chapters before this one with the university itself. And you know, I really like that he actually created you know, a launcher for the game. It makes it a bit more different. Now the point is, okay, so let's get a bit into it and start actually specifically discussing on ideas of Yanderes and yangires. Now the point is, I had a character called Rin, and Rin as a character was theoretically to be presented as a so-called Yandere, because that's why the game actually was called like that. So Rin as a character is, well, still is, because I didn't delete those parts. So it is a character who is the antagonist for a while. So the protagonist has to beat 3 characters that together creates something called the Nemesis Project. Yes, I know it also appears in another anime. It doesn't have any link to that. I don't know what that means in there. But this game actually, you know, the moment I started the game, I actually, you know, dived directly into mission mode and got my ass wrecked by Nemesis, like literally each and every time, for 3 hours, again and again and again. Now the game was also a wake-up call towards, you know, my inner personalities, because I instantly recognized the number 3 in it. Now the number 3 is another number that's been um, representing me.
Feeling picky today, are we?
In a way, okay.
Good luck.
So, it's like there are 3 characters in a way that I have had a great, interest towards, okay? And the first one in a way, and the last one actually that I got an interest towards, I think, as I don't remember the order, I think it was Nemesis in a way, because that personality is exactly the personality that I have in some of my dreams, and it's actually the personality that I wish I would develop in life, and actually I'm kind of slowly and surely working towards that, being somewhat cold, ruthless, and always focusing on the objectives and getting things done with little to no distractions at all. This is actually the only part that I'm struggling with. And of course, recognizing Irish Trish's song, the mission mode song, which actually was the only thing that kept me playing the game for the 3 hours that I played, and I got my butt kicked. Okay, so before we enter in this, there's this little thing that I have to remember. Okay, good. So this would be actually the first video that I do of another game, and put it on YouTube. It's actually not the first video, but I had others, but I deleted them because I didn't feel too okay about that. So if I were to create a Journey Through Consciousness game and put it into Unity, because Unity is a kind of the platform that I would go for, I could go with a graphic like this, or I would go towards a more realistic graphic. The reason why I wouldn't focus too much on the graphics at first is, aside from game development, I'd be really interested in character creation. Yes, like something like, well, this character or any of the characters, like 3D character creation and animations, especially death animations, dismemberments, all sorts of the darker sides, because I know I have a tendency towards these, like a tendency to study these assets, these aspects, and to understand why the mind would go towards such directions. That's one of the core mechanics of mine. I'm highly interested in. What the fuck? You can hear the stitching machine through the wall now? Okay. Yes, as I said, I'm a great maniac when it comes to noticing small details and all of the such. And the game mechanic it's okay to me, and since I want to become not necessarily a game dev but a designer, I know one thing. This game actually provides me with the history that I need, to follow step by step. Now, wipe your shoes, really? Does it actually say that? Okay, so now when I look at this, okay, come on, really now. I can see the outside through this, so probably the wall this is a wall tile, and it had this door not necessarily mounted to it, and I think the door was separately put into it. So if I would like the game, it's like I like the game for the result that it already is. Okay, like I'm not interested in necessarily, and I'm not in love with anyone, or okay, like I would expect people to start presenting me like some kind of maniac, or I don't know, Yandev lover or something. Whoops, I can't show my old friends to other people. One of the things that has been bugging me for a while is that it's like, hey, you know what? Why can you actually snap someone's neck with a bat? That's something that I really didn't understand. So the game as a whole, okay, I'd be really interested in the core aspects. Okay, so the character would be a so-called Yandere. Okay, so the AI does not. Ah, so they actually see it. Okay. Oh yes, so they saw the bat, yes. Do they still act in a synchronous way, or are they asynchronous? No, they still go one after the other. So they still go one after the other, okay, until the event is finally cancelled by someone pulling the object. Okay, why are those meshes actually staying still? Oh yes, it's part of the optimization, long-range optimization process. Okay, so the way I'm looking now at games is much more different ever since I started designing my games, and you know, RPG Maker is a very different platform compared to Unity. It's somewhat simpler, but at least it's actually good for developers because it teaches you how to create events, you know, by structuring everything you need, right? Like, you don't code, you just put in lines of commands, okay? So basically, if you want to animate this character and have her move around, I don't know how you do it in Unity. Well, I know how you can actually create the waypoints, because I think there's a waypoint in here, and you know, in order for a character to actually move like that around, you need to create waypoints and assign them to their AI so that they know, hey, you know, you will only move from this waypoint to the next one by following the, you know, already existent AI of the engine. Okay, each engine actually has an AI that's, you know, a basic AI, and you can create your own plugins if you want. So in RPG Maker you create these characters' movements step by step. So if I want any of those douchebags to actually move, you know, RPG Maker is tile based, so you need to move step by step by step by step by step by step, each and every step. If they have to move like 300 steps, like for example in a sequence in my game, because I have big maps, they have to move 300 steps. Yes, you have to give them step by step movement instructions. Now the game is called Yandere Simulator, but I actually saw Yandev, you know, talking about that, and I kind of disagree a bit with the name, because in the Japanese genre there are the so-called dere personalities, and you know, I'm kind of looking at the body shape of the character, and specifically this character type, because you know, looking at things at levels beyond simple physicism, there's something awkward about this character in a way, the way she moves, but not necessarily the way she moves. It's like more like the way she acts. Okay, the oversized bust is like, the oversized bust is usually something in animes that it kind of turns me off. I'm not that drawn by oversized chests and such, and you know, I never understood why this character always moves as if she has something in her butt, and well, it's not mine. The spine position is kind of bent a bit too much inside, which kind of, you know, spiritually speaking and taking it by chakras, it would depict that right there where the third chakra I think should be, yes, the third chakra, you know, she kind of lacks self-esteem and can actually secretly tend to be domineering or overly shy in a way, and probably has some sort of disturbed sexual energies, if you take it to the fact that the second chakra also seems to have a disability in a way, right? So I take all sorts of details when I look at a character, and I'm interested in seeing why their posture is that, and you know, taking into account what some spiritual aspects would be, because when I create a character I want like literally every bit of it to already start telling a story for whomever would be, you know, knowledgeable enough, right? So this character, the way she has her spine kind of tells a lot. Like she could be a very loving character, but in terms of the lower three chakras, kind of, you know, she shouldn't be like as happy as she kind of is the way she looks around. Now my video game will feature something like a distance in between you as a character, either of the playable characters, and the other characters, in the sense that there will be little interaction with the others. the thing is that the characters more or less have this either deep introspection, which is typical to me, or they have this idea that they don't simply care about the others around. So it's only flavorful that you don't interact with other NPCs that much, so they don't actually act as important. Now this is also something specific of a Yandere, because the idea of a Yandere as opposed to a Yangire, kind in our sense, the character that we play in this game is actually either a Yandere or a Yangire, depending on how the players actually choose to play as. And what the fuck was it? How did she get? Okay, let's forget it. So, but hey, wait, wasn't there some guy around here, like theoretically the girl's crush? Well, I haven't played the game in quite a long time, yes, I do admit, and so many things have changed, and what the fuck, the water looks so natural in a way, although it kind of has this specific flat line aspect, but you know, there are several layers to it, and I actually like how it imitates reality in a way. Now, I have been interested in the game more like for the history that the dev actually presents. I actually learned my lesson that I shouldn't be talking about this game, and specifically the dev himself, about, you know, talk about them like in literally anywhere, because people will just overreact, and you know, it's like, why do people actually overreact, and why is this actually looking like some kind of PNG image? It's kind of a bit disappointing, but the details, however, are quite astounding. Oh, the impassability is a bit awkward in here, because you can walk through a bit of the bench. Yes, and the impassability there. I think the character should be allowed to move through here. I also have some of these aspects in my own game, because for some reason, if you put the impassability a bit leftwards, you can actually end up moving through this part. I think the impassability in here could be pushed a bit leftwards, I would say. Usually one of the things that I'm interested in checking is the interaction between different objects, or usually what I also prefer looking at is the interaction between the tiles, because since I'm interested in learning Unity and C#, and I will actually start doing this after my Java course is finished, I'm interested in seeing and learning as many things possible about the nooks and crannies about this platform, and you know, how I can prevent some things, like, you know, how your character should not be moving through the tree like this. Basically you can add an impassability in there, and the character will actually hop over the tree, or I don't know, something like that. So the idea in Japanese that a Yandere and a Yangire is, well, there are two different complexes, okay, and somewhat very different, okay. So both have the kanji yan in their meaning, and yan as a kanji can also be read in other ways, like for example byo, and you can couple it with byo, it's actually byo with an extended o, and it can actually be pronounced and put in compounds like byoki, for example, which means disease. Although byo kind of means disease by its own sense, you can actually make byo in, for example, hospital, or the kunyomi reading is ya, okay. In only one situation it's called yan, and that's when you actually speak of the Yandere word, because it's not a compound, it's just ya, the kanji, in which case it's called yan, and you have the dere, which is usually written in katakana. Now, I've seen Yandere written in katakana as well. I don't know exactly why. I've heard that some names are also written in katakana, and probably when addressed to as a Yandere, probably it also acts as a name, so hence the katakana reading, actually writing. So the point is, Yandere usually is very hard to depict, okay. So why would it be very hard to depict such a character? Because in terms of psychiatry, the idea of a Yandere is something very advanced. It's not something that, you know, it's easy to present, okay? Some people just simply present them as psychopaths, but it's much more than that. I actually have a post on Quora on the typical aspects that would be influencing a yandere. I would call first and foremost the attachment is one of the strongest points of a so-called yandere. So the first point is a lack of female energy, okay, mainly maternal love at a very young age. Now another point regarding this is, you know, regarding a yandere, there's also something that, spiritually speaking, it can actually be transmitted. Now in life there is this aspect that says, hey, you know what, you can actually choose to experience what you want in your life, and whatever happens in your life will actually conspire to make you fulfill that. So there are actually a lot of souls who come in this world and, you know, choose to experience what such a personality would be like. Okay, now the point is very extremely simple. There are a lot of things to speak about them, and I simply don't know exactly where to start. So I'm more interested in the spiritual implications of why such a personality would exist. And you know, it can actually be part of spiritual attachments, parasitic entities, and I've been speaking about this for like a very long time, and I actually have a passion towards this and the occult as well. And you know, there is this point that if you choose to have such a personality, you will also have the aid of some of the lower vibrational entities, because it's like impossible for a being that comes from higher dimensions to actually be, you know, this sort of personality, naturally speaking. Now as a yandere, the idea is that they are either born so, I mean, emotionally numb, or they become so due to immense childhood abuse. And childhood abuse is kind of the number one reason why people end up fucked up these days. And it can actually, you know, it's just like banging a wood log, you know, against I don't know, let's call a door or something like that. And you know, it's like you know, at some time it chips and it chips and it chips, and at a certain time it will break, okay? Like you have the weakest link, as it's called, right? When you pull a chain and it is attached to something, it will break sooner or later at the weakest link. So depending on the type of traumas and how it influences each individual, because each individual is unique, there will be a lot of different troubles. Now these troubles can be related to the chakras, because when a child is born, they are represented by the lowest chakra, the root chakra, which is blockable by fears. So if they live in an environment where they are surrounded by a lot of fearful people, they can actually have a very great blockage over there, and it's something that can characterize and does characterize yanderes, because they have this immense fear, even if it's only in their minds, that, you know, they will be alone. Because the way I see yanderes is almost kind of like I see narcissists, because narcissism can be one of the spectrums that represent a yandere, and these spectrums actually are more that can be at the same time. Usually it's something sociopathic, so yanderes and yangires definitely present sociopathy. Now sociopathy is called a disorder. It's what I would call honestly a living bomb, because they can easily be triggered emotionally by pressing the wrong buttons. So there is a lot of trauma within them. You will expect them to say that the traumas are no longer, because, you know, they have repressed them so much that they theoretically and consciously they are no longer affected by that, but subconsciously they still exist. The problem is, if you mention something that really pisses them off, that's when they actually go off, and, you know, they can actually become very violent. In case of yanderes, usually the maternal love is something that is missing, or they might have aspects regarding well, if the maternal energy is missing, then definitely the paternal energy, the male energy, is much more present. So the point is, being much more present, the idea is that they will seek to be in a way domineering, which also presents aspects of narcissism. And with sociopathy, based on what I have been reading, it is said that they do not create friendships, they create something called a bond. Now, a bond is something that they create, and it means that they are actively investing in the other person. So when they do that, they simply get to a level where they can't actually perceive why a certain person would leave them, because it's part of life. I mean, that's how life is. People come and people go. That's one of the aspects of life. Now, okay, so I've been wandering around here. I'm not interested in doing something specific in the game, but I just wanted to present a bit. I was interested in creating a video about it and explain and present my opinions on it, like in depth about it, but I haven't played the game in a while, so there's kind of a lot to recuperate on it. So the point is that, okay, let's actually quit. I see this game as an inspiration for me, because it actually presents the history of a game's creation, a game that is very similar to mine. Now, to continue a bit more about the idea of Yanderes and yangires, these two are very different personalities, okay? These personalities go very deep. They are represented by different types of traumas, and usually the Dere traumas come from being left alone a long time, and also there's a lot of abuse, and I would couple it a lot with different types of spiritual attachments. Now, usually this personality can be experienced by younger souls. I think I was in a previous life, I think I was something like this. I had a dream that kind of pointed towards this, and it was a very vivid dream. Now, the point about dreams, shortly said, is that dreams don't specifically show exactly what you have seen when you have been far away with your consciousness experiencing things, because while you are dreaming, you can actually be experiencing a whole life or re-experiencing a whole past life. And when your consciousness comes back into this time frame and into the body, the information that it has gathered is sent to the brain mind, and the brain mind will transform it in a simple way. So basically you will just have around a minute of dreams, and it's like you won't be remembering much about that, especially if your consciousness has been like literally very far away. And it is typical for beginner souls, younger souls, to experience something like this, because in my case, as of what I felt from the dream, it was something about understanding the meaning of life. So in the dream, I was actually behaving a bit like Nemesis-chan. The dream was far more intricate than that. It had some aspects that it usually does, and it replicates reality or realistic or real life aspects in a very advanced way. So let's say I killed someone, and afterwards I ran away from that school, and I was moving down a road, and I came across a doctor. The doctor was a male, and he was actually kneeled on the pavement by, I think it was the corpse of a female. I don't know if it actually was a female corpse or a body lying there. It wasn't moving at all, but judging by the shape of the legs, which were bare, I understood that it was a female. And the medic was actually crying, more like, not necessarily crying, but was sobbing over that body. And I kneeled by him, and we actually had a dialogue in which I actively participated, and I felt so conscious as I was doing that. And I actually became very philosophical right then at the moment. And there was no scene about me being caught by the police and stuff like that, but this ending part was actually very strange to me, because I started talking, like literally talking with the character, and I was like into that conversation, and it was very philosophical and very deep, and I felt that that dream actually pointed me towards one of my possible past lives in which I learned the importance of life itself. Okay, so beginner souls usually are very aggressive. They don't understand the meaning of greater things and the meaning of life. That is why most likely they will experience the lower vibrational aspects of each and every universe. So in this case, they can actually experience serial killers, narcissists, all sorts of exploiters. Now, these personalities can actually have multiple purposes. Say, for example, a soul is very curious to see what it is like to be abused by a narcissist, because being from a higher vibration, it simply cannot perceive and understand why that person actually behaves in that way, why that soul would be capable of doing that much, and it is just curious. Let's imagine that there are souls who would be curious to see what it is like to be killed, let's say, by a yangire, or I don't know, to die in a car crash, or because spirits that come from a higher vibrational world aren't necessarily interested in the bit of positivity that this world has. They are coming here to experience the negativity and bypass it and see how much they can go beyond that to experience the positivity, but you still have to go through the shit and negativity of this world. So everything actually has a purpose in here. Okay, now in Japanese the idea of yanderes is usually they are portrayed by females, and it's like they always have to be cute, but also they have to be violent. Now the idea of yangires on the other side is that they don't have the necessity for love specifically. They're not interested in someone specifically, as opposed to yanderes who actually become almost like white knights. They're interested in a person so deeply, and in a way it's so fakely, that they only want that person, they only crave that person. They're not interested actually in that specific person. They are only interested in the emotion that that person can actually give. Now what this thing actually is, so yanderes and yangires in a way are more like dead characters. Okay, let's not take them as zombies. Okay, lasă-mă un pic acum că nu pot vorbesc. Nu pot vorbesc acum. Nu mă uit, lasă-mă în pace. Okay, so as I was speaking, nu vreau să văd nimica, lasă-mă în pace. Da, mă, să mă cu revoluția vieții. Okay, so skipping over this stupid interruption from my grandmother, who's just interested from time to time in telling me what's going on TV, and I keep telling her that I'm not interested in television and whatever it can throw at me, because I take great care what I put into my mind. The point is that the yanderes are, and the yangires also, they are emotionally numb. Now emotion means, shortly said, energy in motion, and it's actually the result that you receive from everything happening around you at the physical level, and not only. Okay, so everything that is done has this kind of shockwave that propagates outwards, and well, for a certain distance, and people who are very aware, they can actually understand that. As highly empathic people, for example, can walk in a room and can easily feel the vibe, because people there vibrate at a certain frequency, let's say, and everything that they do simply bombards the surrounding with a certain vibration, and the room itself has a certain vibration, right? And the point is that highly perceptive people, great empaths, can actually and easily pick that up. I'm one of these cases. In my case, I'm somewhat of a emotional and cognitive empath. I will have some videos about empathy, but more like on narcissism and sociopathy and the others. So the idea of these characters, even in the real life, these people, if you look them in the eyes, they look like, in some cases, not all, as if they are kind of absent in a way. Those cases are cases in which those people are drones. I call them spiritual drones. Those people actually are drones in a way that they're no longer a full consciousness. Okay, imagine them like some people back in the past that tried to deal with dark powers and kind of, let's say, sold sold their soul. Basically, they accepted some parasites within them that took over them, at least partly, and now they are the, let's say, the puppet of a greater consciousness that has them to, you know, incarnate in this life or in any other universes, and do certain biddings for them, like do certain negative stuff, so that they keep the vibration of the planet, and not only this one but other universes probably as well, as lower as possible, so that they actually remain compatible with that. Because the more positive an environment becomes, lower vibrational entities are simply not compatible with that. If you put a plus and a minus too close together, they don't do well together. That is why negative entities usually don't show themselves in highly positive aspects, unless there are still some things that make that environment compatible with them. Like, for example, people. You can have a church that is fully, holy, right? But if the priest or the people who come there are, corrupt, most likely that church will also have, oh great, another thing on Unity to see. We'll see it later. So, as I was saying, it doesn't matter how holy a place is, if the people who frequent it are corrupted, there will also be corruption in there as well. And especially as long as that character will be there, these corruptions will also be present as well. Now, out of these characters and out of the video game Yandere Simulator, it was actually also a call to a greater, let's say, a greater call towards, higher levels of consciousness regarding me, and understanding certain things about myself. And judging myself from these new levels, I understood that I have some narcissistic traits which I wasn't conscious of. I have some sociopathic traits in a way that I also wasn't too conscious of, and well, they are just minor aspects, it's nothing serious. And also I have a few traits that could make me a good yandere, and even in this life there was a girl in a way that I almost became a yandere for. Like, I had such, not necessarily an obsession, okay, like I'm not fantasizing over animes right now because I kind of don't watch animes, but this is something specific to my real life. And I had this awkward attachment, so powerful attachment to her that it's like, there was this case in which I almost was imagining and planning how to rid myself of some guy, but not for the sake of the girl, but for the sake that that guy also kind of was pissing me off. And I know my background and I know my deeper, darker aspects, and I'm not the kind to get into a fight. I usually prefer going to the root, and if there is a problem, I know that usually I will tend towards exterminating the problem, more or less. Okay, now don't look at me as being some kind of killer. We all have these aspects deep within us. It all matters on how introspective you can become. Now the point is, yangires actually don't require this attachment. Okay, both of these types of personalities, and I wouldn't call them anime bound personalities because I know these cases also exist in reality to a certain extent, and the reality based ones aren't the ones you will see in animes. They were portrayed in anime as a part of awakening, okay, a part of bringing up humanity, one of the darker cores of our own minds, okay. And why they are portrayed through cuteness and brutality is one of the core aspects of animes in a way. Like, some of the animes can be very savage and some of them can be actually very cute. If you combine them together, you actually create something that can act, at least subconsciously, as a wake-up call for people. That is why the present day generations are much more introverted. They are much more introspective, although in many cases they may not realize that. And they tend towards anime because deep beyond the apparently cute graphics, and yes, they are quite cute in a way, and they deliver emotions at a such advanced level. It's like in times you can actually feel they're communicating with you. The point is that it's gonna serve as a new level of awareness, and the newer generations are much more prone to understand these as compared to the older generations who will probably just miss most, if not all, the deeper details. Because why I would watch an anime is, well, because I'm interested in the mechanic of the characters. I don't care that much about the graphics. One anime, probably the only one that I would actually see in this genre, is Date Alive, because Kurumi Tokisaki would actually be the only character that sparks some interest in me. Although for someone who's been suffering for so many years of a minor form of autoassasinophilia, but I wasn't the full-scale paraphilia. It was more like something related to low self-esteem. So autoassasinophilia is a paraphilia, which means a passion to put yourself in a dangerous situation, and as the name suggests, it implies having fantasies and also putting yourself in those fantasies in which someone is actually killing you through, like, let's say, almost any means possible. Okay, and the opposite of this, there's also paraphilia for this, in which the other one wants to be the killer in such fantasies, and I kind of forgot what its name was. It had a phony name in a way, but there's also the opposite paraphilia as well. Now these characters can go very deep, and this video kind of has gone like way longer than I intended it to be, but I knew it would be a very long video. I probably will cover the theme of Yanderes, like specifically from a standpoint of, like specifically spiritually speaking and psychologically and psychiatrically speaking, but more based on my own points as well as a few other sources that I have encountered in my life. I will try to cover this more in depth in other videos. This was more like a 1 year of age video for my game, in which I wanted to present some simple similarities, logical similarities that will appear in between my game in RPG Maker and Yandere Dev's creation, and the importance that I see in the game as a piece of history, because that's theoretically something that I would like to do. A journey through consciousness, my RPG Maker game, I wouldn't mind transposing it into Unity and create a full-scale 3D game for this, but it will take a long time, I know. Probably not, it depends. So yes, regarding this, I can't say that there is little to no attachment, okay, towards the Yandere Dev. I'm not a dweeb, I'm not one of those raving fans. I also don't have this passion towards raving fans. I'm not interested in having fans, because usually fans, being fanatical means using that aspect more or less like a drug. Being a fan of something, it means you like it that much that you're using it as a distraction, and that's also a mechanic of Yanderes. They are so emotionally numb, they are kind of dead, because they don't perceive any emotion. It's not that they don't have them, they do not perceive them because they have repressed their emotions so much that basically they are kind of dead in a way, because not feeling emotions in a way is, well, equals the idea of being dead, because without emotions it's like you're not living anything, because emotion is actually a proof that you are living life. That's a point. I will have a video about emotions hopefully as soon as possible, because this is something that I feel people and humanity as a whole can actually benefit from, and learning how to use your own emotions to your own advantage instead of blaming them for whatever they give you. So the point is that narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths, yanderes, all these types of personalities, they do have emotions, as opposed to what most voices will tell you. No, they do have emotions, because everything that is alive also has emotions. Irrespective of how numb they become, they still have emotions, because emotion equals energy in motion. There is nothing that can protect you from emotion. It will always impact you sooner or later. Now, in case of people who are emotionally numb, they will take a very, very long time to actually perceive these so-called emotions. The problem is that when you actually start not feeling any emotion, like literally at all, the problem is that you will become dependent on seeing, on perceiving, or doing whatever that will have you feel even the slightest emotion possible. So that is why sociopaths, psychopaths, and these people who appear fearless in some way, they are in a way fearless because they have created, or they naturally have in some cases, a completely different opinion about fear. And it's not opinion, it's a perception about fear. They perceive fear in a completely different way, and that is why they act in such ways. And actually what they are doing in some of the cases, especially when they go cuckoo, is that they are trying to feel emotion. Psychopathy in a way is called delayed emotional response. They usually take longer to react emotionally, and people say that, hey, you know what, we don't produce emotions at all. No, if you tell me that, you don't know exactly what you've been telling me. You don't know what you're speaking. You're not knowing what you're speaking. Like, I know I'm a highly introspective person, and I felt, and I got a lot of answers on a lot of things, and I simply have learned to no longer doubt those voices that speak to me, because I have literally combated those. And just like we all do, we don't listen to our voices, we keep fighting them. And well, humanity can actually bow before me, because the way I doubt things is like I can be the deity of doubt for humanity. And well, the universe has conspired to convince me that these voices actually speak true. Now, I know that in this life I'm here to experience my own truths and to also share them with people, but I'm not obliging people to like definitely follow what I'm saying. That's the point. I'm not interested in people blindly following what I'm saying. It's more like, what if you could use that as a guide? Who knows, maybe the universe will require you to hear what I'm saying, and then you can come up with your own ideas, because we all come to experience our own truths. That is one of the reasons why I'm no longer listening to science. Now, the point is with these personalities that they actually want to experience emotion because it's what makes you alive. When any one of us is on the deathbed, when we are on the deathbed, the only thing that we will remember is, well, nothing else than our own emotions. The emotional aspect that we have attached to each of the, uh, you know, actions that we have taken in our life. We will remember things, and usually people regret those things that they haven't done. So, when you haven't done something and you could have done, there's already a subconscious, at least a subconscious attachment in there, and that will actually plague you for the rest of your life. And one of any person's greatest nightmares, and actually hell on earth, is to meet the person you could have been, but you chose for whatever reason not to become. So the point is with Yanderes and yangires as a core mechanic is that being so numb, they will at a certain time experience an event that will actually for the first time have them experience something. They will feel something for the first time in a very long time. And that's something that Yan-chan actually presents in the game, and well, it's quite accurate. And the point is that they kind of become dependent upon that state, upon that emotion, and they quickly assess the situation and see, hey, this emotion manifested around that person and it felt so good. But the attachment lies into wanting to feel more of that emotion rather than caring and understanding what that person actually is, because being so emotionally numb implies a lot of social problems, because you won't know how to specifically act around society. And usually you'll be the black sheep and you'll keep a great distance from others, and you'll become good at reading people, because when you are the black sheep, like in my case I've usually been the black sheep, I usually kept a great distance from people, and I kind of became very good at seeing some of the subterfuges and reading certain people and personalities from a certain distance, because that's how I actually acted. I was rarely interested in uh, you know, speaking with people ever since I was in the fifth grade, and even before that. And starting from the fifth and sixth grade, I would keep writing all sorts of little stories, and all my breaks at school were preoccupied. Even during classes, I would write when possible different things or do different drawings, and keep myself busy and focus on my specific things. And uh, basically, I wasn't that person that caused anyone any trouble. I was slightly bullied, but I didn't have too much trouble with that anyways. But I've always had this idea of keeping myself somewhat away from others. While on the other side, I wasn't necessarily afraid of entering conversations with others, and people seeing that I always mind my own business after I talk with them, because in any class you go, in any group you go, there are all these little subgroups that create, right? And people jump from one another, and they gossip a lot and such. People would easily see in time that I just don't gossip. I talk to a certain group, then go back and like mind my own business. Probably I'd go to another group immediately after and speak with them, and people would actually see that, hey, the other people don't know anything that they themselves talked with me, so if they didn't get to know it, I didn't speak about that, right? Like, how else could they know, right? Unless someone else of their group went there and gossiped. And seeing that I was usually the calm one, I was usually left alone, and people were kind of always curious, because people always have this tendency to attach you names or attach you something, right? They have to attach some meaning to you, because it's a curiosity. It's something that the mind cannot accept, right? Not having a means of classifying a certain person. So the point was, I didn't need to make the first step towards the others would sooner or later come. Now, I will discuss about this in other videos, okay? Like, I don't want to make hours long videos, because I know I can easily make that, and I can also share a lot. But this video was more like the similarities in between Yandere Simulator, a game that I kind of like, and as I said, I will keep somewhat close to it. Just for the history part, I'm not attached to Yandere Dev. I know there's a lot of negativity whirling around, and spiritually speaking, he's kind of inviting it in. Now, I will probably have one or two other videos specifically on the game if you feel like it. Okay, so until next time, I'm wishing you a good day, good rest of the week. Take care. Show yourself a bit more love each day at least, and well, I'll see you in the next video and hopefully hear from you. If you like the type of content that I'm creating, feel free to at least like, comment in the comment section, leave me some criticism, because I don't mind it. And well, feel free to at least represent them, like tell them to other people, so that, who knows, spread the wisdom, spread the information together. And well, have a nice day. Ferenc on board, signing out.